Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I mean friends, welcome to the WDW Fan Zone Show. I am Stuart, joined by Kurt, John, Jess, and Darlene. And tonight, we're going to discuss what you really need to do when choosing a resort, whether it's on or off property. Because sometimes picking by price just isn't good enough. But before we get into that, we're going to bring Jess on board to tell us the latest, greatest, and best Walt Disney World news there is going on right now in the state of Florida. Take it away, Jess.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. If you're here in Florida now, hope you're staying dry. All right, so extended evening hours are returning to Animal Kingdom from 6 to 8 p.m. on October 11th for those staying at a deluxe Disney Resort hotel. This is the only date listed as of now, but we will announce when more are scheduled, along with Hollywood Studios. That one is scheduled for September 25th from 9 to 11. Currently, Magic Kingdom and Epcot are the only parks that have weekly extended evening hours, and Epcot is usually Mondays from 9 to 11, and Magic Kingdom's is on Wednesdays, usually from 10 to 12, but it depends on when the park closes for everyone else. The extended evening hours are always 2 hours past park closing. Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party starts next week, August 9th. And actually, is that this coming week? Oh my goodness. I'm a week off.
Yeah.
It is this Friday, August 9th. And don't forget to try some of the new menu items available for purchase during the party. There are supposed to be 42 new menu items, treats, and meal food all over the park. The Halloween party starts, I already said that, Friday, August 9th, and continues on select nights until Halloween. Also, starting on August 9th, Disney Hotels in Disney Springs will start featuring Halloween-themed eats, treats, and sips. There are far too many to mention, but if you will be at any of the Disney Resort hotels, be sure to check out their Halloween items. A while back, we mentioned that resort hotel guests who are staying on property between January 1st and December 31st, 2025, will receive free admission to a Disney water park on the day of their check-in. You will receive this perk if you are listed on the hotel reservation. But we also just found out that also means if you stay at two different resorts on your stay, you also get two different water park entry dates. Those are the days that you check in. Every single time you check in, you get, for everyone listed on your reservation, entry to a water park. So exciting. All right, Disney All-Star Movies Resort is extending their refurbishment of their world premiere food court through mid-August. You can still order from the mobile order, or if you want to dine in or want a bigger selection, you have to go over to All Star Music or Sports. And don't forget to check the park hours before planning your trip and check again once you arrive to see if they've changed. Recently, Disney did extend park closings for August and September, so make sure you check those out. And the Walt Disney World area is expecting rainy and stormy conditions because of Tropical Storm and Hurricane Debbie until tomorrow. But the rest of the week will be typical summer weather, hot and potentially rainy and stormy. And that's all I have for today.
Thank you, Jess. That was a book full of news.
All right, everyone have a wonderful week.
Great newscast. Yeah, you too. Stay dry.
Thank you so much, Jess. We will try. All right. See you real soon.
Night, all right. Before we get into the topic for tonight, I just want to mention that I know, Darlene, you're at Hollywood Studios on Monday. I happen to be there Thursday night during this wild lightning storm that we had.
Ooh.
We left my house, I want to say, as the rain was slowing down a bit. By the time we got to Hollywood Studios, it was just a drizzle.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally got to eat at Woody's Barbecue Roundup.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I thought it was okay. For Disney prices, I thought it was good.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're eating off property, I thought it would, if this restaurant were off property, I don't think I would have gone there at the price point it is. But on Disney property, I thought it was okay. I thought it was actually a decent price for being on Disney property.
especially for the amount of food that they give you, and they'll
Yeah,
give you
well,
seconds and thirds.
yeah, well, let me say something. Our server was very personable, nice guy. Um, he just seemed to disappear. Like we'd see all the other servers at other tables, and he just seemed to disappear.
Oh, I've never had
Um,
that happen.
yeah, he would.
Sorry.
We would sit there for I don't know, a good 15, 20 minutes, and all of a sudden he'd come by and it's like, "Would you like more food?" It's like, "Yeah." But other than that, maybe he was new. I don't know. Maybe it was just maybe he had too many tables, but we didn't see him. That's the problem. We just didn't see him. He might have been in another room there. It's very big. I didn't expect the place to be so big.
It is,
Or
yeah.
it's well themed. I mean, the theming was incredible.
Mhm.
But I did have a question for you, Darlene, because I
Yes.
can't go by what I saw on Thursday night because the park emptied out. So, and we were there late, so I only got to go on a couple of things, but it was pretty much a walk on.
Okay.
When you were there on Monday, how did you find the standby line moving?
Well, we only went on Tower of Terror,
Mhm.
and, it I think we got in within 30 minutes, which I didn't think was bad.
And what did the sign say outside? Did it say 30 minutes or?
It's no. Outside, it said it was gonna be, like, 45.
Okay. All right.
So,
So, your
now
expectations were 45, but you got in at 30, which means you won.
I know. Toy Story, we were in line.
Mhm.
It was posted that it was supposed to be 35, so we figured, "Oh, okay. Well, our 35 came and we didn't move from the doorway."
Wow.
So then we walked out and the guy goes, "We just opened up the third track. You can go back."
Oh
But
my.
by that time, Keith was like, let's just go. Let's
Yeah.
go and get something from the quick service, which just flew out of my head, Woody's lunchbox.
Mhm.
And it has ruined us for box Pop Tarts, is what I'm going to tell you. My
They make
husband
a
is like,
they make
I
a
will never
mean
eat
grilled
another
cheese
box
there.
Pop Tart again.
If you can, try the grilled cheese there. It's amazing.
I have had the um, loaded tots that
Mhm.
they have there, and
Right, they're really you can make those at home too. We can make a lot of things at home,
Yeah.
but they
yeah.
taste really good and they're fairly easy to make.
Yeah.
They are. Yeah, so I would definitely, if you want a quick service, I would suggest going there and giving it a try because it's delicious. Gesundheit.
Bless you, John.
Thank you.
All right. Anyway, the topic of the show. So I don't know how I came up with this topic. I was trying to think of things we could talk about that could actually help some of the people that might be watching us or listening to us. If you're watching us on YouTube or listening to our podcast, I just didn't want to make it about everything in the parks. And I think we kind of did that last week too. I forget what we talked about last week, but it seemed to go over okay. Uh, anyway,
Choosing the right Disney World planner.
yes, that's the word. Yeah. Yeah, it seems like a lot of people when they choose a resort, they're looking at their wallet first, which you should do. But there's a lot more to it than just figuring out where to stay based and whether it's on or off property, where to stay based on just money alone. Because you could pick a resort that may be not so expensive cost-wise per night, but there might be things that aren't included that you do need to or that you may need to pay for depending on your situation that could add up pretty quickly, and you might have been better off going to a more inclusive resort that might have cost you less. And I don't think people think about that. Also, something people don't think about is if they get the dining plan, you're paying rack rates if you're staying on Disney property when you get the dining plan. You need, and this goes back to last week's show with, picking the right travel planner. The right travel planner will tell you if you pick the dining plan, your room is going to cost this. If you take the resort discount, it'll cost this. And you have to see which works out better for you. So it's not
Usually
always
it's pay for the dining plan.
right. Yep. Yep. So, you have to do more than just say, okay, it's going to cost us $90 a night at this resort and $300 a night at that resort. but you have to see what you're getting from each and what you have to add on to and what your total cost will actually be. So I thought we'd discuss that tonight. I know you guys are DVC members, and Darlene and I live down here too. So we don't really choose resorts ourselves anymore because we don't have to, other than,
Well,
I think you do, Kurt.
yeah, Kurt and I still have
Well-
to choose resorts, and there are a lot of DVC resorts from which to choose, but
Mhm.
sometimes we're staying
Now,
outside
you guys,
of our points.
you guys always stay on
We-
property.
I've stayed at both. Probably up until a couple of years ago, I've stayed off property until Sunday, and then Sunday stayed on property, based off of our Disney Vacation Club. The DVC points and how it breaks down, it's just easier that way. But I do stay. If I do a second trip like we are next year, we end up staying. That second trip we stay off. We'll stay in a regular resort.
When you stay off property, now you have a rental car generally.
Either way, I use my sister's car or a rental car. You are correct.
Okay. So you have there are people that'll come down here that don't have transportation. So that's another cost that they have to add into if you're staying off property, is the cost of a rental car or transportation to and from the parks. Some resorts will give you free service, and I put the quote marks up for those listening to us for free service, because you're basically stuck going and coming and going from the parks at their schedule, not your own schedule. So if the last bus leaves at 9 o'clock, you best be on it if you're staying off at a resort off property. I don't know what the times are or how often those buses run, but I know we once did it off, stayed at a resort off property. Oh God, it was about maybe 8 years ago. It was the last time we stayed off the property.
Well, and I think you're making a point right there, and that is with all of the variety of off-site hotels, they're going to have their own policies and rules around transportation. So you've got to figure it all out.
Yep.
Whereas if you do stay on Disney World property, you have the same transportation options, at least as far as buses are concerned.
Right.
So it's very clear what it's going to be.
Right.
Correct.
Now, if you're flying in from, it could be another state, another country, you may not have or need any means of transportation other than getting onto Disney World property and back to the airport if you're flying in. And then you have to figure out, okay, what's the cost going to be for the transportation to get me to Disney World property? I've got a trick for everybody. Take Lynx bus service, $2. $2. And it'll leave you off at Disney Springs, and you can hop on a resort bus there to the resort that you plan on staying at if you're staying on property.
Even with all your luggage?
Yeah. Yep.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. It's the best way to do it.
How crowded do the Lynx buses get? Do you know?
That I don't know. But
It's something to be careful of, especially if your party is larger.
Yeah, well, if you have a large party, yeah, I would think so. You can look up Lynx. It's LYNX, if I'm not mistaken. And
I remember seeing that. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's, Kurt, when you stay off property, you're doing it basically because you want to save your points for your DVC stay.
Correct. Yeah. Friday and Saturday night stay can be substantially more than the Sunday through Thursday stay.
And that's something our listeners and viewers can do too. They can actually buy DVC points or rent them, not buy them.
Rent
them.
They can rent them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those two. Interesting fact. That's not true as far as the points are concerned. If you go to Hawaii, at Hawaii, it doesn't matter. They're all the same all the time.
Really?
Go figure. Yeah. But going down to Walt Disney World, they are more expensive for the Friday. Those are considered premier nights. So if you're going to go for a quick weekend, what nights are you going to stay? Friday and Saturday and fly home on Sunday. So those cost more. So, in an aspect, we honestly would use some kind of insert name of travel, Expedia, Triplicity, whoever you want to use, find the best rate for just one night. If we had a rental car, is what we would do there. Now, if we're going to come down for a long weekend, say Friday through Tuesday, we're just going to find one resort that fits our best need, and we're just going to stay there. That is not our DVC trip when we're coming down and doing something like that.
Yeah.
And then we find the one that fits our best needs, which is what we're going to be talking about tonight.
Yeah, and speaking of needs, it's like Lottie's not here with us tonight. She has 3 children, so 3
Correct.
children with 2 adults does not fit well into most Disney resorts. When I say Disney resorts, I'm not including DVC.
Plus, her
Yes,
children are growing up,
that's right. That's right.
like Kurt's children.
Now, they do have some, like who's it? Art of Animation has some suites.
Hmm.
Is that right? Is it art? It's Art of Animation.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. But there aren't that many.
Well, but certainly, as we said just earlier, there are 2 ways to get DVC if you don't have DVC property yourself, and that is either to go through a broker or an agency that will rent them to you, which
Correct.
they're in high demand, or you can also just flat out buy nights from Disney when they have a certain amount of availability carved out for anybody.
Or you stay off property.
Or
I know a lot of people. There are a lot of
Right.
vacation homes here, and I've got to tell you something. The amount of vacation homes that are popping up in this
Oh,
area
yeah.
are just unbelievable. I think they're oversaturating the market to the point where I think it's going to be a colossal bust somewhere down the road.
Well, that's going to bring the prices down for now.
Well, the parks, and when I say the parks, not including just Disney, but when you think of Disney, Universal, SeaWorld, the number of vacation homes that are popping up here could probably fill all the parks and then some. So something's got to give as far as that goes. And I think the price at the resorts at Disney are driving people off property. But and that's why we're doing the show too, because sometimes your best deal is not off property; it might actually be on property.
Well, you can save 40% off of the rack rate when they start running these sales at a DVC resort.
Yeah.
So that's a decent sale, especially when you think about it. We were told when we bought our Disney Vacation Club, I believe it was 10% of all the rooms are held separately for Disney to rent or renovate at a given time. So there's always an open room in that situation.
There should be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But to your point, Stuart, the number of people in your party is one of the important factors to look at.
Absolutely.
Where you're going to stay and why it's important to look at that.
Right. And
you
don't
have to.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say you have to research even DVC. When you hear someone staying in a 1-bedroom villa in a DVC resort, you're thinking, "Wow, that's got to sleep like 5-6 people." In the Polynesian resort, you can get a studio villa that sleeps 5. It's more like 4.5 because the fold out that comes down is small. It's not even a double. However, if you go to the Wilderness Lodge or there's a couple other the older resorts, even though it's a one or Boardwalk even or Beach Club, those 1 bedrooms only sleep 4 people
because they don't have the extra chair or
that's
and you would think with the refurbs they would put it in, but they didn't.
Yeah, or you have to look at the cost. If you're coming down with a family of 5 or 6 or so, or it could be a large family gathering, how many rooms do you need? Can you rent a DVC, maybe a 2-bedroom that would fit everybody?
And it would be less expensive than renting 2 deluxe resorts.
And the new DVC properties at Fort Wilderness, the cabins, their prices are lower than the other deluxe resorts for DVC.
Mhm.
You know, and I'm wondering. I know there are a lot of resorts off property that you can. And when I say resorts, I'm talking about hotels and vacation homes where you can fit a larger family for less cost, but then you've got to spend time getting to the parks,
Yeah.
transportation to the
Twice as
parks,
far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Well,
you're losing. You know, if you're really there for the immersiveness of Disney, you're losing out. You don't have access to
Yeah.
early hours, early extended hours, or I'm sorry, or the after extended hours when
Yeah.
the parks close to the general public.
One of the ways that they still have the Disney uh, Springs hotels,
Mm-hmm.
and they
The
do
neighbor.
have some access to the early hours and
They do.
transportation. Um, I don't know if they have transportation to the other parks that we really don't chat about too much, but I know they at least do have
Yes, the
transportation.
good neighbor hotels.
The Good Neighborhood,
Right.
yes. Disney Springs, they were
Mhm.
years ago. Now they're Good Neighbors, but yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a number of them over there.
And then if you go back to our show last week and listen to that, which I highly recommend, you'll see that a good travel planner can help you walk through what we're talking about this evening. So you can pick the right place for you and your family or your friends or whoever you're going. If you're coming on a solo trip, how are you coming? What is your main goal for that trip? And that goes with anything, whether it's a family or I think it's more difficult. The more people you have with you, the more accommodations you have to make for each other. And you have to figure out what suits your needs as a whole best. It's like these multi-generational trips that people do take. It's great seeing them in the parks with all the matching t-shirts, but I wonder, like, where are they all staying? Are they staying in a vacation home off property? And are they missing out on anything? And did they, could they have found something better suited for them on property somewhere? And would it have cost them less? Did they
They
use
don't
the
even
right
need to be
travel
staying at
plan?
the same resort though,
They may
because
not.
I know large parties of 15 to 20 people that have gone,
Yep.
and they've been staying at multiple resorts, and they all just
Mhm.
meet up at a certain time. So I think it depends on where you want to stay or where do you want to go. I mean, if you want to stay in a deluxe resort and you're more interested in the Magic Kingdom and Epcot, do one of the resorts over there around Bay Lake, or I'm sorry, around the Seven Seas Lagoon, because you got monorail to both. If you're in, you could technically walk from any of those resorts. You could walk to the Magic Kingdom. There's a boat service to the Magic Kingdom. If you're more interested in going to like Epcot and Disney Hollywood Studios, you could stay at one of the resorts that's closer to the Skyway. That way, you've got Art of Animation, Pop Century, um, Caribbean Beach Club, or the Riviera. All those four, did I say four? Yes. All of those have the access to that Skyway and could get you around between those two locations as well. And then they'd have bus service going elsewhere. So, likewise, over at Epcot, the Epcot resorts have bus service as well. Yacht and Beach Club or Boardwalk have boat service over to both Epcot and Disney Hollywood Studios.
Mhm.
So it depends on what you're trying to do.
Right.
One thing I want to mention too is don't discount staying at the Swan and Dolphin that's right there.
No.
We a lot
Now,
of we always forget to mention that,
Mhm.
the Swan and Dolphin is right next to and walking path. You can walk from the Swan and Dolphin to Hollywood Studios and that. So
Yeah.
that just be very, very careful when you're booking there because they
Mhm.
have hidden fees that you
Resort
don't.
fees. Yep.
Correct.
There are
And
resort
parking.
fees, there are parking fees that
Yep.
you do not have at the Disney resorts.
That's with anything that's absolutely correct.
is.
Anytime you're not staying at a Disney-owned resort, you have to check into that.
Yeah.
Correct.
What I would do is make a list of the places you'd like to stay at, the places you can afford to stay at, And then look at all the, see, does this one have hidden costs? What's the bottom line when you get through your list of wants and I get, or the pros and cons?
Yeah.
Correct.
I actually did that about 2 years ago. Needed someplace just to stay for one night. And so I was looking at all of the nearby non-Disney hotels, either by Disney Springs or Bonnet Creek, wherever, and the Swan and Dolphin as well. And I went and looked to see what the costs were for parking, the costs were for the resort fees, and I ended up staying at a moderate resort because it wasn't going to save me any to stay at one of those other ones.
Mm-hmm.
I really thought I was going to be able to, but it's very important to look, like Kurt was saying, to look at those costs.
Yep.
If what you're trying to do is keep your costs down, where would you rather stay? You know, if it's going to cost you the same, would you rather stay someplace else where you've got to get bus transportation? You're not sure what it is. It's going to take you a little bit longer to get to where you're going on Disney World property.
Yeah.
You need to be informed of what the costs are, even though cost is just one factor.
Well, I could say something we did some years back. My daughter was a senior in high school. We were looking at colleges for her in Florida. And we combined the trip of going to Universal and Walt Disney World and looking at colleges for her. So we were all over the state. So when we came to Central Florida to look at a couple of colleges here, we decided we're going to stay somewhere in between Universal and Walt Disney World. So it wouldn't be too far to get to one or the other. We wouldn't have to change hotels after a night or two. And we picked one that had transportation to both. And it worked out well. But the one thing I didn't like was, all right, you want to go to the parks at Walt Disney World and you want to get back to your resort and you don't want to pay for it. At that time, you know, there were Ubers, I guess, but we didn't use them. It was more taxis that were in use. And, you know, we just didn't want to deal with it. So, and we did have a rent-a-car, but we didn't want to take our rental car. So we basically were stuck, you know, okay, 9:30. Well, it was like within a minute or two after the parks closed, we had to be at that bus to get back to the resort.
Mm-hmm.
You have to figure in too. But
other things,
there are a lot of factors that go into your decisions.
Along that line, when we stayed off site and we would look at these travel sites at photos of where we wanted to stay, you got to be careful, because we looked at one resort and we're like, wow, this is a great rate. It's one night. They just want this room filled. Let's fill it. We'll take their bed for them. And you get what you paid for. We realized the photos where they're taken at a certain angle to make it look larger than it is, or the photos were taken like when it first opened maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And when you'd walk in the door, we're all get disappointed when we walk around and we see it chip paint and walking through Disney. But this was everywhere in the hotel. The whole hotel was just in shambles like that. There was, again, you get what you pay for. If you're getting a lesser rate, odds are pretty good that there's a reason why it's a lesser rate. People aren't giving it good ratings. And also, if you look at the ratings, look at when those ratings are, because there were ratings that were like from 2019 and back that looked really, really good. But since like 2022 and up, the place might be under new management. It looks horrible now.
Yeah,
it's really changed how it looks.
TripAdvisor is a good place to go to look at ratings, and you can sort it from most recent to
Correct.
oldest. And that's also a good place to go to look at rate if you're doing this on your own, to look at rates for resorts on and off property. And you can sort it in a number of ways by distance, price, number of stars. But yeah, read as many reviews as you can. There's always going to be somebody complaining about something. So you're not going to find a resort that's got 100% perfect rating. But if you see the majority of ratings for a resort or hotel are in the negative, don't go there.
Especially if they're bragging about their free breakfast and how great their breakfast is. And from like 2022 on, all of a sudden their free breakfast is you have little cereal boxes or that cereal thing, and like fruit. There's no pancake maker anymore. There's no
Yep.
waffle maker anymore, and all of these things aren't even being offered. No, there's no. A lot of places we go to would have the eggs or something like that: eggs, bacon, omelets, biscuits, and gravy. And then there was one where it was none of that. There was just nothing there, and we're like, oh, what happened here? Like, we've decided to go this direction since the pandemic, and it was empty, and now we understood why.
Yeah, I know somebody who recently booked a hotel, was told, "Hey, free breakfast," not, and they'll have eggs and all this, and they got there and it was just a coffee machine and make your own toasted bagels, and that was about it.
Yeah, donuts, toast,
Yeah.
and bagels. That was it.
Yeah.
I just did a road trip and we stayed at it was a Marriott owned Fairfield, and they still served a hot breakfast. It was, you had to make your
Well,
own.
of course you can get them, but
It was
you know
good.
what?
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
the whole point is look at the reviews and look and
Right.
see if things have changed. Because
Yeah.
even though this was a specific resort, and it was not down in Florida, but it was a specific resort we had stayed with before, and since the pandemic, they've made this change.
Yeah.
So, and it was a good resort where we paid more money than we probably should have for what we actually got.
Yeah.
That reminds
not beyond just the food.
yeah, that
So
reminds me
it
of
needed a lot of work.
when Keith and I were driving down and we stayed someplace and they're like, "Oh yeah, there's breakfast." Well, we went over. It was a restaurant. It was $15 a person.
Oh,
They didn't say it was free. They just said breakfast
Right.
was available.
Breakfast was served. Yeah.
yeah.
We just looked at each other and go, well, we really don't have where we're going to take a huge truck with us, 26-foot moving truck.
Yeah.
So,
Well, so some of the other things that I think are important when you're looking at the factors for where to stay are pools.
yes.
And I think that's for a couple of reasons. So
Yep.
one is you want to have a pool that's comfortable for your family. So let's say you didn't buy tickets for your entire stay. You're not going to the parks every single day. You want to have a good pool that's going to give you something to relax, be comfortable, spend a lot of time there. Your kids are going to like doing it. So Disney's got some good ones to choose from. But even if you're not staying at Disney, where you go, I think a pool is one of the factors for that. When you think about Disney resorts specifically, I think it gives you great options for taking breaks from the park.
Yeah.
We've
Yes.
talked about this in different ways before, but you know how hot it gets there, middle of the day, start getting cranky, go back to your resort. You want to relax.
Mhm.
It's nice to have a good pool.
Mhm.
So look at the resorts that fit your price range, look at the kinds of pools they have. A lot of the Disney resorts will have one main pool and then they'll have some quiet pools too. So look
Yeah.
to see what's available, and that's something that could be very helpful for some families.
I completely agree. I've always said, if given the choice, staying on or off property, I'd rather spend a little bit more and stay on property. And it's not just the convenience of being able to take those breaks or the pools. It's it's just the more magical. How can I express without the only word I can think of is immersive experience. If you really want to truly eat, sleep, drink, walk, and talk Disney for that week and forget everything going on in the outside world, if you go back to a Hilton, let's say, which might be a wonderful, beautiful resort, but it's 6 miles from Disney, as you're driving there and back, you're going to start thinking about, okay, what's going on at work? What am I missing? What's going on at home? How's everything else? How's the dog and the
Other
cat?
distractions, right?
Right. Where if you're staying on Disney property, you're not thinking about anything but your vacation.
Right. Go ahead, Darlene.
One of the things I know, like you just mentioned, my family definitely books their vacations now with at least one pool day, just in between, so they can have a break and then go back. And they always pick a resort that they can go to the themed pools with the kids and stuff. And then, my best friend is coming down and she's got points like Kurt and John and I. And she picked the Grand Floridian for one of her stays because the Disney Vacation Club pool is right outside. Well, basically, one of those private pools is like right there. It's like right outside the door. You come down the elevator and you're at the pool. It's perfect for her, So, but that's that's one of the things you're saying is picking a place where you might enjoy that.
Likewise, you might also want to make sure, as much as you like using the pool, know what kind of room you're getting and how close it's going to be to the pool. Because where Darlene wants that, I'll walk out the door and there's my quiet pool. I'm going to be honest, we haven't used a pool since 2019. We always pack. We always say we're going to, but it's so stinking hot. When I want to say 2018 or 2017, it was 99 degrees outside. The pool water was the same temperature or hotter. We did not want to get in that water and move around. It was like sitting in a hot tub. We didn't need to go in a hot tub, other than unless you wanted the jets. And we were afraid to get into it because we didn't know how scalding hot it would be. But sometimes you just want to go back and relax and sit on your balcony to relax. And if you got the pool, and I'm just going to say with active children, active adults, just a lot of activity going on, and it might get a little bit louder. That might not be quite as relaxing as maybe a different view. Not that I want to sit there and stare at the I don't want to sit and stare at the parking lot. I'm not saying that, but there are rooms that you can get that have a different view than, like, a Savannah view, or, maybe a different kind of entrance view or something.
When you stay at the Animal Kingdom Lodge, you definitely want to plan a day to sit on your Savannah if you got a Savannah view on your balcony. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's some of the things you're bringing up. There's a lot more. It just goes to my point of why we're doing the show. There's a lot more to think about. It's not just picking a Disney resort because you like the price. It's picking a Disney resort because of its location, what it has to offer. Or if you're staying off property, it could be because you're going to multiple theme parks, not just Disney theme parks.
True.
Or you might have family down there that you want to visit, or friends, and there's a lot of factors that you have to equate into your decision of where you're going to stay.
Along with that, how many rooms are at the resort? So if you're staying at somewhere like the French Quarter,
oui.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're at Port Orleans French Quarter, there's 900 rooms. There's less than 1,000 rooms. I know that. 998 maybe.
That's why I love that resort.
There's always room for one more. Anyways, those resorts are quieter. So you can sit back and relax. Now, they don't have a balcony, but they are quieter. The last time we stayed at Port Orleans, the last time I stayed at Pop Century, we were in a quiet area. I talked about this last week. We were the very last resort, which means we had like a half-mile walk. So if you got young children, you might want to think about that. So if you're planning on going over and getting food at your resort, if you're not, that's different. Even with Animal Kingdom, the two differences there. With the Animal Kingdom Lodge, your parking lot is away, and now you got to walk into your resort. And because it's like a giant bowl, if you're out here, you're looking at a quarter-mile walk each direction. It's a long way.
And something else too, if you're taking public transport, when I say public Disney transportation to get to and from the parks, where's the bus stop to your building?
Correct.
How far of a walk is it?
Are you the first stop or the last
stop?
Yeah.
These are all things you need to consider before choosing the resort.
Yeah.
And if you're staying on one of the bigger properties, like even if you're renting points or paying for points at a Disney Vacation Club, make sure if you need transportation, if you get all the way to the back of like one of the back buildings, that there's a resort loop bus that just takes you on the resort. Some of them do have those, and I know Saratoga has one as well.
Oh yeah, OK West has one of those. I know if you're staying in the back,
they do too.
even if you're in the front. I mean, we were really close to the main one, the main area.
Yeah.
My sister wanted to go really at the other end. There was something she wanted to eat at the far pool, and she just hopped on the bus and took the bus back.
Yep.
You know, also, you know, we heard you brought it up before, mentioned a little bit about with breakfast at a, you know, at a hotel if you're staying off property. How about staying at a resort that's under construction?
Right.
You know, that's something else you need to consider. You know, it may not be under construction when you book the resort, but that's something you may want to find out before your stay actually takes place. Are there any renovations going on? How is it going to affect me when I get there? What is Disney doing to help alleviate the renovations that might be going on?
Right. One of the things Disney's website is very good about is at the top of each resort page, they do post what renovation is happening, if it's rooms or if it's pool related.
Well, yeah, it's a warning that stands out. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, if you've got small children and you're staying at a resort that's under renovations, and it might affect your ability to get around with your small children, you could try to see if you can get your resort moved someplace else. I
Well,
think
a
they
lot of
will.
times Disney will offer those options to
Yeah,
people and move them and
Correct.
even give them a nicer
they will.
resort than
Correct.
what they had booked.
That's very
Yeah.
true. But you know, in most cases, if you're staying on Disney property and there are renovations going on, they do as much as they possibly can to alleviate any stress that the renovation might cause.
Mhm.
And I think you'll find when you stay on Disney property, the renovations while they're noticeable, really don't affect you. Whereas if you stay at a hotel off property, they don't give a rat's rear end about what they're doing with their renovations in terms of how it affects their guests.
You talk about transportation. One of the other things that I think is important that is related to transportation, and that is how closely you can park to your room
Right.
if you are going to have a rental car,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mhm.
some of the deluxe resorts especially can have some very long walks. The boardwalk, the yacht club, the
Oh,
beach
yeah.
club, the
Yeah.
Kidani Village. Now, but on the other hand, Kidani Village has parking directly under the
Under it.
resort. So you
Mhm.
have to walk to a stairwell or an elevator,
Mm-hmm.
but your car can be very close to that. Places like Old Key West, they're spread out, and so it might take a little bit longer for a bus, but you can generally park very close to your room.
Yes, you can.
Mhm.
Especially with that 26-foot truck I'd had.
Yeah, Pop Century's is fairly decent that they've got their
Mhm.
parking lot distributed across the different buildings, so you're relatively close to a place where you can park.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, before I forget, I did want to mention something with speaking of renovations. I think one of the all-star resorts is the cafeteria is under renovations now, the quick serve.
Mm.
I don't
I was
remember which one, but if anybody's staying at an all-star resort, check Disney's website to make sure it's not yours, or if it is yours, you know, take a look at it.
that was going to be my next thing is, think of like if you want like good quick service meals and stuff like that, you might want to stay at one of the moderate resorts or the values. They have really nice food courts, very well themed food courts as
Yeah,
well.
but you know, it's staying at the one thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the value resorts too. But one of the problems with the value resorts are if you've got children that are beyond elementary school, they're probably not right for a family. They're just not. The rooms are just not that big, especially
Not
if you've
big
got
enough.
2 kids. Right,
But
not big enough.
I,
Yeah.
I gotta agree with everything she just said about that. Either a value or a moderate resort has so much better quick service dining
Yep.
Mhm.
than the
Yep.
deluxe resorts.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's shame on Disney for not thinking of that.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only place where we've really found that we enjoyed was over at Wilderness Lodge. I'm
Roaring
sorry,
Forks.
Contemporary. I don't like it unless you're actually staying at or going to Chef Mickey's. Kidani Village doesn't have anything. You have to go over to the regular
Jumbo.
resort,
To the Maya.
Jumbo House,
Mara,
which
the
is
Mara.
okay,
Right.
but it's difficult to get over there to it.
Mhm. Beach Club has a decent one.
Well, it's kind of a
Shop.
food place and gift
Yeah.
shop combined.
Right.
It's not. I think the best one that I like is Saratoga because they prepare food there, like a lot of food. Like they're like quick service is very well like managed over there.
They're still doing a lot of conventions over there, aren't they? At Saratoga.
I think that's more at Coronado now, from what I heard.
Yeah, Coronado's the place where.
Well, yeah.
But they do have the golf course right there as well, so they do service a lot of people.
Well, true.
And it's our DVC. That's where all the DVC rooms are and that. So
well, yeah, that's our DVC too. I've stayed there once. That's why I know what it used to be. It used to be where they used to do a lot of courses. And you stay there, and they still offer some of those courses, and I can't remember if they're still over there or where they are.
I know
because I've stayed there once.
I know the spa isn't open yet. It's still under renovation.
Gotcha.
Because I was just there.
You know what spa spells backwards? Apps. And speaking of apps,
apps.
There is a WDW Fan Zone app that was created by John, and you can listen to our shows there. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff on there, and it's good, and it's free if you're an Apple phone owner.
Yeah, nothing against Android.
If you're a Droid, well, then
nothing against Android owners. I just don't know how to program for an Android, so my apologies.
That's a different course.
Actually, what he said was, like, screw them.
Yeah,
no, he didn't say that.
Yeah,
he did.
Always appreciate that, Stuart. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anything else we have? I think we've discussed a lot.
There's one thing that I have on my list that can be very important for certain parties, and that is somebody that has trouble with getting up and down steps. There are places where there are not elevators. Old Key West, especially. Now you can request to have ground level, but they have second and third levels that they only have steps, no elevators.
Or only in certain.
Pardon me?
Port Orleans French Quarter.
Port Orleans was the other one I was thinking of.
Correct.
Over in the mansions, do they not have elevators over there?
Nope.
Or in the Alligator Bayou?
Yeah.
So that's very important for somebody that can't get up and down steps, or you don't want to lug your luggage up and down steps.
Yeah, I think that's one of the questions Disney will ask when you're making your reservation. Do you need any? Do you have any accessibility issue?
Right.
Well, it's when you're checking in, your online check-in, that is something that they specifically will add.
Yeah.
And you can also, even if you book online, you can call Disney and they will put a note for your request. And Stuart, it's Disney's Pop Century Resort from July 29th to September 29th. The Everything Pop Food Court is under refurbishment.
Thank you, Kurt.
It's still open for your convenience. However, you have to use mobile ordering in the Experience app in order for food and drinks. You may need to use alternate entrances to the food court, dining room, etc.
Thank you for mentioning that for anybody who's staying at Pop Century. Appreciate it.
Yep.
I'm trying to think. Is there anything else we need to talk? We've talked a lot about on property, and we mentioned the pitfalls of staying off property, even though you could get a better price. But if you have a large family, I think you're limited in choices on property, and you might have to stay at a vacation home off property. And
Cabins are for
We talked
wilderness.
about those. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
The one thing with the
Um,
cabins, is they don't have washer and dryer.
Correct.
Correct.
Port Orleans Bayou section. They have a trundle bed that pulls out. If you've got, I mean, that sounds bad. That's where my older sister could sleep because she's only 5'3". I'd have to get up and down because she's got that artificial hip now, but you just give her a quick push, she falls down. Go to sleep, Kathy. And there you go. She's good to go. Oh, love my sister to death. Hopefully she's doing well down there with a typhoon.
does she do hip hop
Work and
with her
everything.
new hip?
No, it has not hipped or hopped out. That's one thing they said is please don't run and please don't dance. So we don't dance anyways. But yeah, if somebody smaller needs to go on that trundle bed, it pulls out, it goes back. If you have two people that just don't want to share a bed, that is a nice way you could do it that way too. If they're not, not over probably 5'8".
Yeah, I would love to see Disney build a resort that is specifically for families of 5 or more. I don't know if it'll happen or if it'll ever happen just to have an exclusive resort just for families 5 or
Art
more.
of Animation and the All-Star Music both have,
but it's not
larger.
a lot. They do, but it's not a lot.
But they do have them, and those rooms are just darn expensive. You might as well be staying at a deluxe resort for that price.
And I think a lot of people feel they're pushed off Disney property because of the prices. But like we mentioned before, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but you really have to look at the hidden fees and see which works out best for you. And time is worth a lot of money. If you're going to spend an hour or a half hour even traveling from a resort to Disney World, whether it's by rental car or public transportation or other transportation, or Uber, is it worth it? Would you rather have less? How much is your aggravation of not being there worth?
Right. Or, having to get up that much earlier in the morning because you want to get there for rope drop so that you can get more attractions in.
Right. It's even, So even if you have a rental car, you got to worry about the price of the gasoline. Mm-hmm. How big is your car? What kind of gas mileage are you getting? When you're driving there, are you going to have to pay for the parking fee at the Ticket and Transportation Center, which is what, $28 or something crazy like that now? So those are all hidden fees on top of the parking at you might be having to pay a fee at whatever resort you're staying at off property. Then when you get there, boom, you're hit again. And those two prices right there, if that's $50 more, and for $50 more, you could have stayed on resort.
Yeah.
Wait up.
And I want to bring up something else too. If you're driving to Disney World, whether it's in a rental car, your own car, because you decided to drive from Indiana all the way here, think about it. Where are the world's worst drivers? When I say world's worst, oh my God, the drivers down here. And I don't know if it's a lot of the Floridians that are here. I think I kind of want to believe it's the tourists that come here that rent cars, but they're god awful on the road. They have no clue where they're going.
They have Florida plates.
And a 3-lane road, they'll go from the right lane over to the left and make a U-turn.
It's still Floridians.
With traffic.
Rental cars have Florida plates too.
No, actually, our rental cars are from out of state. And in Florida especially, they started doing that because people were purposely running into rental cars with the Florida plates on them. Because then they were tagging you and charging. That's probably part of the reason why they went to no-fault insurance. Florida drivers, they take an online course. There is no formal driving practice. You literally do 50 hours with your parents. So you're at the mercy of whether or not your parents know what they're doing. And then it's a very simple driving test. So I have family members that are Florida drivers that I've taught them a few things because they were
what I don't like down here is, and Darlene, you can attest to this. There were turns that you can make a left-hand turn and there's no place to turn. They basically put like these U-turns in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, you have to go past the intersection and do a U-turn,
Yeah.
which people are going fast enough around those corners, they're tipping their cars over.
Yeah. Or they're
Yeah.
crashing into other cars. I see
Yeah.
people coming out. There's intersections where there's no lights, a lot of them, and people will come out of a side street, go across 3 lanes of a highway to get onto the other side.
Correct.
And it's just like nobody wants to go a few feet further to get to a light and make an actual U-turn. They all want to do it. And I've seen people drive right over the median down here. Like just go right over it to get to the other side. It's incredible what goes on down here. And I love the police down here. They're doing their best, but we don't have enough. We need more police officers on the road.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So
Anyway.
another reason to stay on property,
Right.
there's less Florida people on property.
You know, Arlene, I do
Than
take
off
umbrage.
property.
I take umbrage with what he said. I think it's the tourists that come down here. Yes, it's some of the Floridians that are driving down here, but it's the tourists as well.
Not in Tampa.
We're not in Tampa.
We're not in Tampa.
We're talking about Lake Buena Vista and Walt Disney World.
Holy cow.
And surrounding areas.
Yes.
I have one quick additional factor that'll apply to some people, particularly myself and Lottie, but it's related to running. So one is to have a running track, and there are a number of Disney resorts that have good running tracks, like the Epcot resorts or Pop Century around Hourglass Lake. Caribbean Beach has lots of places to run. The Contemporary has a little running loop that's marked out. It's not very big. Also related to running is the Run Disney races. So if you're staying off property, it's a whole lot harder to get onto the property to begin the race. And also, if you are going to go to a Disney resort for a Run Disney race, think about how long that bus ride is going to be after you're done to get back, so you can get off your legs and relax. So some of the closer resorts might be some options you take a look at.
And to get there, because you got to get there at 4 o'clock.
And yeah, you're getting up early in the morning, so if you're closer, you don't have to get up quite as early, and you're not on the bus for quite as long falling asleep.
Correct.
All right, just quickly before we get out of here, let's start with, if you're coming down here on a solo trip, what resort would you pick for yourself to stay at, or hotel in the area? If you're going to be here, let's say for anywhere between, let's say 2 to 5 days, where would you stay? Kurt, we'll start with you.
If, like my wife and I, we know we're taking a second trip, just the two of us.
No, just you.
Oh, just a solo trip?
Just a solo trip.
Either Pop Century or one of the value resorts. Probably Pop Century.
Okay, John.
If I can swing it, I would like to stay at one of the Epcot resorts, just because it gives you all of the Crescent Lake area to walk around, gives you extra access to restaurants, and it's just more, especially when I'm by myself, it gives me more things to keep me occupied.
Yep. Darlene.
I'm going to have to agree with John. I would definitely stay at the Crescent Lake resorts.
Yep, me as well. And I would stay at the beach club.
I'd stay at the boardwalk.
Closest to the Epcot entrance. Yeah.
Yep.
Beach club. Yep.
All right, Kurt, you and your significant other.
Again, if I'm not staying on my points, if I'm staying on points, it's going to either be Bay Lake Tower or
You're not on
Wilderness
points.
Lodge.
You have to rent it, not rent.
I have to rent it.
Not rent.
I'm not getting a good deal on something. Again, we're just looking for a bed if we're going around and doing stuff. If we're looking to relax, it's going to be over at Wilderness Lodge. If otherwise, we're just gonna stay, like I said, over at Pop Century, or possibly, what the heck? The two of us are gonna stay at the Riviera.
Okay, John.
He at the last second he pulled mine out, so we don't get to do it very often. But I like to stay at the Riviera. Easy access to the Skyliner, which helps you get to Hollywood Studios and Epcot, You've got access to Topolina's Terrace right there and Primo Piatti for eating. And that's just a beautiful resort for the two of us.
All right, Darlene.
Well, I can tell you for a fact that my husband said that he wants to stay at the beach club again or the boardwalk.
Yeah, for
Whichever
me, it
one
would
Go
has
beach club,
room.
better pool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it
Yeah,
is.
much better
As long as
pool.
it's not a
Much
resort.
better.
one day.
No
Yeah.
comparison.
Correct.
For me, I would pick. It's between two. I'm going to go with French Quarter because it's quieter. It's got a more romantic atmosphere there.
Okay.
No, it's
And
not a
beignets.
resort, but it doesn't need to be.
And it's
Yeah,
got beignets.
That's
And
right.
beignets.
Correct.
Yep.
Yep. All right, family of four, Kurt. Your whole
Family of four?
Family of four. You and your wife and kids.
Bay Lake Tower.
John.
Closest to the Magic. It's as close as you can get to the Magic
John.
Kingdom.
I like that pick. I'm going to take a different approach. I like the rooms at the Alligator Bayou area. They've got the curtains there, refrigerators. They seem to be made well for a four-person family. And, they're certainly a little less expensive because they're moderate. And they have a good food court there too, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Darlene.
I'm going to say, because I've done it before, is Port Orleans Riverside. And they've got a nice pool, they've got a good food court. And they have a nice restaurant there as well.
Yeah. Oh God, for me, it's a toss-up between Caribbean Beach and Wilderness Lodge, but I'm going to give the nod to Wilderness Lodge because I just think it's more convenient to get to the parks than Caribbean Beach if you're using Disney transportation. All right, family of five or more. Kurt, and this is going to be the last one.
Family of five.
more.
We're going to go out to Kidani Village and stay in the 2-bedroom.
John.
Old Key West, 1 bedroom with
Sleeper bed.
Yeah. So that you're going to pay less for Old Key West, or if you can go to a broker and get some points, the points are going to be much less. And they've got good pools there. They've got good restaurants there. So, and it can be quieter. So I love the decks that come with those 1 bedrooms there. You sit out there and have breakfast. Yeah.
Darlene.
I'm going to agree with John. That was mine.
I'm going to do something none of you have done throughout this whole exercise. I'm staying off property if it's a family of 5 or more. Just for the sanity of not being on top of each other.
Here's something to point out. They took Old Key West, and I took over at Animal Kingdom Lodge. The points are almost identical. They're very, very close. I went with the 2-bedroom. Even if I went with the 1 bedroom, which would still seat 5, that 1 bedroom has 2 bathrooms. The 2 bedrooms have 3. Old Key West has 1. So if you've got that many people, you're all going in the 1 bathroom. I'd rather have either 2 or 3 bathrooms.
Yeah.
Makes the morning a lot easier.
You know what, Kurt? That's a great point. All right. That is going to do it for us this week. We will be back next week with another show. Same time, same bat station. So until then, everybody, be safe, be yourself. Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
Well, I've had a very busy last 2 weeks, and I have nothing. I've been singing for the last 2 weeks, but I've got nothing in my head. So everybody gets a break tonight. Thanks for listening. Hope to see you again next week.
Have a magical night. Stay safe. Pack your ponchos and listen to the weather forecast.